Hey everybody, it's Joe with you back on the Average Joe Show for episode 2. We've got a great guest today. We are going to be interviewing Canton offensive coordinator Brock Kitchen. This is going to be a great episode. I'm going to talk to him about what the future holds for Canton football, their great run in 21 and 22, and also I'm going to ask him about why he started to write in the newspaper. I think that's a great story and a great question to ask him. I also want to say thank you to everyone who texted me, called me. I even had a couple people stop into my house and shake my hand for the first episode. I appreciate all the support. We're going to keep rolling here. We hope we can continue to pump out great content for you. If you have any ideas about people that you want to see on or you'd like to be on the show and say something, please call me, text me, ajshowpod@gmail.com. Like I said, we're going to keep rolling, keep doing this. We're doing this for you guys. And all right, let's get ready to have a good show. Thank you. All right, we're back here on the Average Joe Show, and I'm here with Canton offensive coordinator Brock Kitchen. Brock, thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I watched your episode the other day with Commissioner McClinko, and it was just awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you. So you're in the middle of summer. What have you been up to?
Oh, it never stops. Doing home projects, which I don't get a chance to do very often during the school year. Getting ready for football. We had boys Waverly basketball camp last week, which I worked at, and Ryan Vanoit and I took up 10 boys to that. And then this week is girls camp in Waverly, so I've been helping transport girls to that too. So
you've
never stops.
Been very busy.
Yep.
So where are you at in the process of football right now? Are you guys getting ready for the season?
So we've been doing 7-on-7s on Sunday nights, really since the end of the spring. And then we do speed trainings on Wednesday mornings, and that's with all kids in all sports, boys and girls. We went up to Waverly one Sunday night for 7-on-7 and worked out with them. And then the following week we went down to Williamsport with Mike Pearson, his coaching staff, and worked out with them and did 7-on-7 with them one night as well.
So you guys are pretty much in the full swing of things right now.
Yep. So we'll work out again this Sunday, and then the week before camp, Coach Sechrist always gives the boys off. So if anybody is going on vacation, that's usually when they go. And then August 5th, we kick it off.
So did you play football in Canton when you were in high school?
Yep.
Did you play for Miller Moyer?
I did. I played for old Coach Moyer. I graduated in 98. I played for Coach Schaefer my freshman year, and then he retired after my freshman year. And Mr. Bowman, who's a chemistry teacher at school, he was on the staff then. Lyle Wisniewski came back from college and was on the staff. Denny Faust, young Miller Moyer. And Davey Mockmer, who was there, who's still with us now.
So you've been in Canton football pretty much your whole life.
Yep. Started Pop Warner when I was in third grade. My parents ran that my last couple years. They were the presidents and ran the youth football. We used to be Pop Warner at that time, so we played all the Williamsport teams. We never played any NTL teams back then. And then, all the way up through.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I know that Canton football, it's a little different. I covered the West for about 5 or 6 years, Wellsboro, Mansfield. Yep. And, I got to cover them in their heyday, when it was like Quinn Henry and Michael Petropola, right. and then coach over in North Penn,
Coach Dickinson.
Dickinson, yeah. He had a slew of Burleys who were his quarterbacks. And man, it was the best of times over there. And I think Canton was still kind of in a rebuilding phase. I remember there was the one game where you guys beat North Penn in overtime on a Trevor Route kick, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was Jay Perry's last year, maybe a second to last. Yeah, I wasn't coaching then, but I was there. That was a great game against North Penn.
But I got ready to come over here. We'd bought the paper, and I was like, man, I don't know what's going to be like covering Canton and Troy sports. I thought maybe things are going to be down because I'd just seen those really competitive games all those years over in the West. And my first game that I covered was that game in 18 against Towanda. And, you walk into the stadium, and I'm like, oh, there's something a little different here in Canton. There's just like a different passion about the town. And I was like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. And I remember, what was that kid's name? The tall kid.
Well, Ben Knapp.
Ben Knapp
made a
Ben Knapp made a
huge
crazy catch.
Yep.
And
then Timmy Ward made a catch late in the game in the right corner of the end zone.
Yep. And I just remember the place going nuts. I was like, okay, it's a little different over here.
Yeah. And we started with our, like when we came as our now see I coached first time with Coach Wesneski. So after old Miller Moyer left and he retired, there was like a year gap, and then Lyle Wisniewski took over. So I coached for 4 years with him when I was still in college and just had graduated. So, I mean, we had some downtime then, went through some tragedy back then in that time, and then went to basketball for a while. And then when Tyler got the job, he asked me if I'd be part of the staff, and like we put in our due time too. I mean, those first couple of years we struggled. Those teams Wellsboro just went through an unbelievable run, and that's part of small school football. Like, we were down at that time. We've had our run, and like hopefully we can continue a little bit. Wellsboro's a little bit down, but they're young right now. They're going to be coming back. That's small town football, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember coming in 18 and after seeing what you guys had done previously, and it feels like that's when kind of things started to change. Was in 18, 19, you guys were right there, but you ran into that Muncie juggernaut for about 3 years. You lost them in the playoffs. That was tough.
It was. So we, like I said, we had some big wins there. We had some great battles with Wellsboro, with Timmy Ward and Aiden Hauser. Like, those two went back and forth, and North Penn upset it. They didn't upset us, but I don't know if it was 19 or 20. They won the league. They beat us at home like 9-6 maybe. Like, it was a great game. So I mean, we were always right there on the cusp. Winning the league. And then, like you said, our battles with Muncie the last 4 or 5 years have just been historic. We were on the short end, and unfortunately, the first couple times, but we finally were able to get over that mountain. But you want those good rivalries. You want those to build. The kids love preparing for those games. So, like I said, it's a cliche, but you always talk about when you start that those kids are the foundation to the program, and they don't really realize it. You know what I mean? But we had to go through those bad years before we could savor that success too.
Yeah. What is it like for you as a coach? I know that there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with coaching, especially your position, the offensive coordinator. There's a lot of offensive coordinators that sit up in the stands, each week that kind of question what you do.
There absolutely is.
How do you deal with the scrutiny and just kind of tune it out?
First thing I try to do is try to stay off social media during the season, which is tough. If I have someone that comes and talks to me directly, I respect them a lot more. And I have had people in the past that have come and asked questions, and I have no problem sitting down with them and discussing things. But you're absolutely right. Everybody wishes they could make the different play call, or handle something a different way, or play a different kid at a different spot. And like I said, I lose a lot of hours of sleep during the season. There's no one that takes football or basketball or preparation more seriously than myself. I hate losing more than I love winning. It's simple as that. If we win, I expect to win. I don't really celebrate it. When we lose, that's probably why I have my physical issues once in a while.
And it's crazy too, because I remember before the 21 season, you guys installed a new offense, correct? You ran to the option.
Yeah, so we had been preparing. In 20 was the COVID season, so we planned some stuff, tried to use Ben Knapp a little bit differently with some formations and stuff like that. We didn't know. Timmy Ward got hurt there, in the preseason.
Huge injury. That was
absolutely
crazy.
Like he is Canton football. Like, in the time I've coached, there is nobody that epitomizes Canton football more than that kid. Best player I've ever coached or been around. And like, we we game planned all summer of how to use him, and first scrimmage, we weren't even going to show it in the scrimmage how we were going to use him, and we have him out at wide receiver, and a freak thing happened, so we had to make a lot of changes on a whim. And then that season, we had a very good season, the greatest Troy game I've been involved with. It's absolutely horrendous that it was the COVID and not 2,000 people didn't get a chance to be there to see it. But that comeback that we had against them and beat them in overtime, because we had to play that the first game of the year, just so we could get our rival games in. But then we had some other big games. We were able to play North Penn. We were able to play Wellsboro that year with great games. And then Muncie, like I said, we had two kids, Riley Parker and Brennan Taylor, weren't able to play that week because of COVID. So we had to put Joel Schoonover at running back, who hadn't played running back since he was in 8th grade. And that's the type of things that a lot of people don't see, or don't see that I get questioned about. Like this past year, we had a great season this past year, and we go into the South Williamsport game, and a game that we beat down there in a great game. Well, if you're not 100% into football, you didn't know that they were missing 3 starting linemen the first time we played them and had them back. And we lose a starting tackle the night before in practice, and Hudson Ward, his hammy just wasn't able to go. So it was 2 different teams. And that's the type of thing that, parents and outside coaches don't see all the time that I wish I could be able to stress to them a little bit better. But yeah, so back to that 21 season, we'd been planning on that. I'd coached Cooper all the way up through in youth. We actually ran some option when he was little. Him and I watched more game tape together, on the option. And it's tough to be an option quarterback. You got to make a lot of reads. You got to be smart. And then not just that, running the option, he called 75% of the plays himself.
It was very smooth watching him run the option. The media would often question his arm strength, which I think he had. He made good enough throws when he needed to, but he was flawless running that option. So smooth. And I think another benefit that you guys had is he didn't have to play defense either.
Exactly.
How critical was that for you guys?
And he was an all-star safety. The year before, he was an all-star safety. He loved playing defense, led the league in interceptions. But then we had all those kids coming in, those sophomores and juniors, that big class where he didn't have to do that. And it just made our offense so much more potent with him being able just to come off the sideline. If he's seeing something, be able to discuss it with me at that time. But he was so good at getting us in the right play. And he was a magician with the ball. I watched a game a couple weeks ago, an old game that was being televised, and that was a big thing that the announcer said. They don't know who has the ball. Putting that offense in was right for the personnel that we had 2 years before when we had Michael Smithers. I have a 6'2" kid that weighs 200 pounds. We're gonna throw he broke records for us passing the ball because we didn't run the ball much. And then the following year, Uriah Bailey was able to do both. But he'll be the first one to tell you he was not an option quarterback. He could not make that read. But you put him in the spread and running counters, and getting him athleticism. So you got to be able to accommodate to what you have. And when we installed that offense that year, I was very excited because I knew, number one, besides Troy, not many teams run the option anymore, and they are not even run. They run the option, but they're a power team now.
Most teams are running the spread now, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they run the spread. So let's say out of 10-week season, 7 of those weeks defenses are preparing to run against spread. So by the 6th time you see spread, you know what's coming. Well, you only got 4 days to prepare for the option. It's a big advantage, and if you can run it well. And you have athletes that you can get the ball in their hands. When you have Cooper directing it, and you got Weston and Riley and Hayden and Michael Davis and Bailey Ferguson, you don't know which way that ball's going. And then the line up front was so smart. They were so intelligent, football smart, being able to call things at the line. Yeah, it was. that was a magical run, great season. So
We are going to talk about 21 and 22 a little bit more. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, we're back here on the Average Joe Show. We're still talking with Canton offensive coordinator Brock Kitchen. And Brock, we were just discussing 21 and 22. You know, around town, I heard a lot about, this 21 team. It's going to be special. We've got this core of kids that have been playing well together, since they were young. Can you kind of talk about coaching them and bringing them up through the ranks from Pee Wee to varsity, and just what that was like for you and developing them?
Yeah, they, like I said, first of all, they were a great bunch of kids. They were all athletes in every sport. I mean, all of them played numerous sports. I had the opportunity to coach them in everything. I mean, besides the wrestlers, coached them in Little League All-Stars together, youth football. Some of them played basketball with Cooper. So, I mean, those kids grew up. A lot of them grew up at my house. Weston Bellows and Cooper were best friends, still are. They're at each other's houses all the time. So that made it easier. Like, if you can put the option in, we talked about it a little bit earlier. If you can put the option in with 11 and 12-year-olds, you know what I mean, and they're able to do some stuff, and like some plays can be called, like, that you're dealing with football smart kids. And Coach Bellows was the same way. He was able to throw things at those kids defensively that they picked up like that. And then, as we said, with us playing the fast-paced offense, with Cooper calling stuff at the line, you don't have much time to think. If you're in a huddle, you usually have 10 seconds. Play comes in, you have 10 seconds to think about what you're doing. Cooper gets up to the line and reads where the tackle is and wants to run inside veer to this side. You got 3 seconds to know who you're blocking. And that just comes with playing together. They did things like, from the time they were 8 years old, they would go up to Ryan Allen's house the Sunday in between the playoffs and the Super Bowl and play their ice bowl. Like, we have pictures of the kids as they were growing up all the way till they were teenagers playing that ice bowl. So they always hung out together. And we were the 21 group, Cooper's group, that wasn't large. I mean, we only had 6 seniors, I think, but all 6 of those kids did their role. And then the big class behind them is what propelled us. To great things. It reminded me a lot of when I was going through myself. Like, my class had 6 seniors, and we had a big junior class behind us, and we were able to win the NTL and make a little run. And you need that type of thing in the small school.
Yeah. 21 was crazy. I mean, I know you guys finally beat Muncie to get to the district title game, then Steel High. Yeah. And, everyone was kind of talking about, well, Steel High is going to roll over Canton. And, I mean, that game was just an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. So, I mean, it started week 10 with Troy. We playing in that mud bowl. It was just the kids.
I ruined a camera in that game.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It's a game that they'll never forget. I'm sure that a lot of the fans were miserable at the time, but it's something we'll never forget. And we were not 36 points better or whatever it ended up than Troy. We just got the ball rolling, which was great. And then we took a lot of frustration out on Muncie. They'd put us through the ringer for 3 or 4 years in a row. So when we had our chance, we were able to exploit some things.
It felt like when you guys beat Muncie, there's just like this collective sigh of relief.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, we've done this.
Yep.
Now let's go see what we can do in the state playoffs.
Yep. And when we find out we're getting Steel in the first game, we're thinking, it's defending state champs. We're watching tape, and we're like, we've never seen athletes like this before. But I'll say that was probably the one game that I feel that our staff did the best job we've ever done. We knew we were going to have to come up with some things on both sides of the ball to compete with that team. Because we play that team 10 times, they're probably going to beat us 8 of them just because of the athletes on the field. We had to have some things go our way. They had 2 big turnovers, and we were able to capitalize on both of them. And then, having the atmosphere, that was one of the biggest atmospheres. But that in the following week was probably the biggest, the biggest atmospheres those kids had ever played in. And against some of the best talent. Now you can go back and say, hey, I played against a kid that's going to Navy, be a quarterback at Navy.
Irby, right?
Yeah, Alex Irby, and his brother's going to Buffalo, I think, or something. Yeah, another D1 school. So, we got to play against talent.
Do you think they took you guys lightly going into that game?
Absolutely. I don't think they had played physical football before. I think we wore them down. Like they were no bigger than, school size wise, they were the same as us. They had to have kids play both sides. Besides Irby and Cooper, they were probably the only ones that didn't play both ways. And I don't think that they had to play 4 quarters and get punched in the mouth. They wanted to just throw the ball all over the place and be finesse about it. And I think it wore him down. Riley Parker played the game of his life. When we went to the bone late in the game and we just said, hey, we're going to run it right here at you. You need to stop us, and they couldn't do it. There's not a better feeling than that. We hit a couple big plays. Like I said, Weston had 2 big interceptions against Irby. Irby fumbled 2 balls inside their side of the 50 that we were able to capitalize in. And I think we only had 1 turnover. I think it was 4-1 turnover, and that's huge against a great team. But yeah, that atmosphere and beating that team, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember after that game, it was like, okay, this team could be for real.
Yeah.
You get to the next week against Old Forge, and there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of hype, and those first 2 quarters, you're kind of like, you were struggling against them, struggling to stop that quarterback running on you. And I think that I kind of was like, okay, Canton, good season, great game.
Yep, absolutely.
Great job.
Yep. If you were an outside, and even myself, I felt Old Forge was the best team in the state that year. I'm not saying we weren't the second best. I felt they were the best team in the state, most physical. Like, we've punched teams in the mouth all year. They hit us. And I'm not saying we backed down. But we were not able to move the ball. They hit 2 big pass plays to score, and I'm not afraid to say they were probably the better team. But then again, 2 big turnovers. Riley and Cooper have that big 4th down connection in the corner of the end zone. I call that play, I don't know, 4 years earlier over to Wellsboro in a close game, and it gets picked for a pick 6 and we lose it.
Yeah,
we come back to it,
that.
and it's a turning point. We block another punt, and we're able to put one in.
Austin had a interception there too.
Yep,
that was
inside
timely.
The 20.
Yep,
yeah, they were
yep.
inside the 20. We had a big penalty called back. It was my fault. We run a hook and ladder for a huge gain down the sideline, and we have a formation mix-up, and so you get that called back. But like I said, Old Forge, that atmosphere, I've gone back and watched your highlight videos on the homepage thing of the videos, and you see that crowd. And that was a cold day. That was windy.
Freezing.
That wind came down through that stadium, and that crowd was unbelievable. That's the loudest I've ever seen a Canton sports crowd outside, and that was unbelievable getting to play. And it was a lot of people because it was Thanksgiving break. Got to see a lot of family come in. So yeah, poor Old Forge, 2 years in a row. They lose to Steelton the year before on last play of the game, and then lose to us in overtime. It was a great competition.
I remember Hayden. It was Hayden, right? Who won the game-winning touchdown. He's pointing his finger in the air, and that was just crazy.
Because we went on defense first, and we got the stop. Weston got it. Well, Riley broke his finger on first down. Gets his finger stuck in the quarterback's helmet, and his fingers pointing the wrong direction, and bones sticking out. And Weston picks it off on 4th down to get the stop. So we were really just playing for the field, like the extra. We just needed the field goal. Bailey had been very dependable, and we run a quick dive, and Hayden's able to pop through there. And it was once in a lifetime.
I remember the crowd afterward; everyone's hugging, and it was just an emotional win.
It was.
And then week after that didn't go the way you planned. You guys got a tough draw with having to travel 2 hours to Altoona, Bishop Guilfoyle. It's right in their backyard. That's always kind of a controversial thing with the way the PIAA does their seating in home field, but we won't go into that. And I mean, I felt like you guys were there.
We were
most of that game.
I think the drive. I don't think we got off to the start that we needed to against them. They had a D1 athlete. Like, that quarterback was the real deal. Like, he's walked on at Penn State. Maybe he's gotten a scholarship by now. He was the real deal. Their line was better than what they showed on tape. Like, when you watched them on tape, we felt, hey, we very comparable to these guys. And when we got there, they were better in person. And you don't see that when you're playing a team that's 3 hours away. It's not like going to scout somebody on Friday night. You only get the tape that you're given. But yeah, maybe the best team didn't win that night. I don't think if we played as well as we did against Steele and we win that game, and that was a long season. I mean, that's a long season for those kids. And then that long drive, I don't want to make excuses. They were a very good team, but I think you play them 10 times, we win 5 of them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you graduate those 6 seniors, move on to 22. You guys you did a good job with what you had to work with at quarterback, making things work, and talk about how tough that was and making that work with that class.
Yeah, we didn't really have a defined quarterback. Cooper had been a 2 years, or all the way up through. He'd always quarterbacked both years with that group. Austin had done it some. Bailey did it a little bit. So that was tough. So we tried to find roles for each of them. Austin was more of our throwing quarterback when we wanted to stay spread. He was a tall quarterback to be able to see over the line. Bailey still tried to run a little bit of option for us. Weston we used a lot late in the year just because of athleticism. And then Holden came along and ran the option late in the season for us almost as well as Cooper. And we ran a lot of different stuff with that group. We ran our spin package, and we kept that in our pocket. Like, we were keeping that in our pocket for week 10 for Troy. Like, we practiced it from the first day of camp. We practiced it every week. And the kids are like, are we breaking out? Nope. And then the kids wanted to break it out against Jersey Shore, and we didn't need to do that. It was a non-league game. Best team I've ever coached against, by far. Jersey Shore was that team that we played against. Jersey Shore was the best team I've ever coached against. Guilfoyle, Steele, and by far. So we saved that for Troy, and we were able to jump on them early because we kept that in our pocket and that misdirection. And then we used it as the playoffs went on. It was a nice little wrinkle, and the kids were able to do that. But then, like I said, Holden took off a little bit with that option late in the year, and that last drive against Steele, and he ran Cooper's offense. The no huddle, called it all the way down to take the lead in that score, and did a great job as a sophomore. But same thing, having Riley and Hayden still, and Michael Davis stepped up big that year. Hudson, and we were blessed with having athletes. We were able to just throw the ball up sometimes and have Weston be able to go get it. Bailey did a great job down to Muncie in the playoff game, quarterbacking for us in the rain. It rained. It was awful weather. Did a great job down there for us. So yeah, it was by committee. But in my years of coaching, it's been by committee a lot of times. I think sometimes people second guess some stuff, but like when we had Michael Smithers and Uriah, I used them both. Before Timmy got hurt, Cooper and Timmy were both going to be used that year at the quarterback spot, before we put that other one in. And then that last year in 22, all 3 of those kids, and they accept the easiest thing to do. the easiest reason, or the biggest reason that was successful, because all of them accepted it. Like, not one of them, you know what I mean, ever gave me ill feelings or said, hey, I want to be in there. They knew what they needed to do for the best of the team. Austin knew he couldn't run the option, but if I needed a deep pass, he could make that for me. You know what I mean? Holden knew he wasn't making the pass for me, but he could run the option. So, you know what I mean, having great kids that want to be what's best for the team made it easy.
What's it like being able to have kids like that? It seems like just the culture, like Pee Wee around here, it feels like it's like, okay, we're going to teach you football, but we're also going to teach you about culture and eventually being men. You know,
Absolutely.
What that means.
And that comes from every sport. I mean, your teachers, having good role models, you know what I mean, at home with your parents. When you have dads that played for Jake Schaefer, and I mean, at that time it wasn't, you were allowed to grab them by their mask and, you know what I mean, throw them around a little bit. I got my whoopings just as much as everybody else. But when you have dads at home that say, hey, this is how it's going to be, and this, you know what I mean, it makes it easier as a coach to be respected by your players. And if you have a kid that just comes in, works hard, does what he's asked, you know what I mean, is a good teammate, it makes coaching enjoyable.
Yeah. It's been incredible to see the culture here in town and what you guys do. Talk to me about the balance between your kindergarten teacher and you're fantastic with the kids, and then, you know, it's like you go from Friday morning kids loving on them, and then Friday night it's rah on the sidelines. How do you achieve that balance?
It's tough at times. I wrote about it in my article, I don't know, a couple months ago, that there's two sides of me. Like, there'll be parents that'll come in, I mean, with kindergartners, and like, oh, I don't want my kid to have Mr. Kitchen. And like, someone will say, he's not Coach Kitchen. You know what I mean? He's Mr. And I'll be the first to tell you, like, I am totally different. I love my job as a kindergarten teacher. And I am a different person there. Do I still expect the kids to respect me and, you know what I mean, be accountable? But do I want them to love school? Absolutely. I always tell we have the high school kids come down as high school helpers. So Michael Davis would come down, Hudson would come down, Rylan Sakers, and even the older Uriah Bailey. And they'd go back to practice and tell stories about what happened in kindergarten. And like, you guys aren't going to believe what Mr. Kitchen's like in the classroom. It's totally different. But they'll also know, I can remember Hudson this past year, we had a bad day in kindergarten before practice. Guys, you better be ready. He had a bad day in kindergarten. So it's a different stress.
I remember the first night of kindergarten orientation, you're like, look, I take my frustration out from the classroom on
Yep,
kids.
and the kids know that. They know that. Like, hey, if I've had a bad day and you get yelled at practice, it's probably not because of what you did. It's because of the 5-year-old that didn't listen to me all day long. But yeah, like I said, I'm not afraid to admit it. Like, I do have two different personalities. If you want to say I got a split personality, some people might say that. But I'm a high intensity guy. I love what I do when I coach, and I'm high intensity in the classroom. Like, I get excited in the classroom. No one's probably told you stories. Like, I'm excited to see kids get happy and accomplish something. Like, it makes me happy. But I think teaching kindergarten is the best thing for me. If I had to teach in the high school and then deal with the high school kids for another 2 hours at the end of the day, I think that would be too much for me. I think that being around these 5 and 6 year olds, brings me a lot of joy. Kids enjoy school the most those first couple of years. Like, they still want to be there. Like, they want to please you. Like, snack time is still the best time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they're just. I taught kindergarten for many years over to Liberty before I came back to Canton, and everybody's like, "Oh, how do you teach kindergarten? How do you teach kindergarten?" And I always tell them, you get through the first month. When the crying's done, it's the best job in the world.
Yeah.
It is, because they're just sponges. Like, they want to learn, they want to be close to you. Like, they're not afraid to cry around you.
Yep.
You can have fun with them, but then been able to.
My oldest would come home and be like, well, Mr. Kitchen said that I can't watch Pittsburgh anymore, or he would say, he taught us how to write a C, and it had a cool little rhyme. He's always excited to tell us what you were doing. And then the biggest thing he told us was when you got pushed in the pond when they went to your parents' house. So
we went on a field trip. My parents are just unbelievable. My mom comes in 2 days a week with the kids, and they refer to her as Grandma Kitchen. They love her to death. And then at the end of the year, we get to go up to their property, and they just put on a show for us. I mean, the kids get to go fishing and play in the creek and tie-dye shirts and go on make s'mores and go on hay rides. And you don't realize how many kids, it was their first time ever fishing.
Right.
Like
right.
Kids just don't get to do that anymore. And being able to see them, it's heartwarming. I'm glad we're able to have that opportunity, and my parents are able to do that, and the school allows us to do that type of thing, because the things that we took for advantage, I guess, or that we thought was everyday thing, you know what I mean, when we were a kid, a lot of kids just don't see it that way anymore. So
we're going to take one more break, and then when we come back, we'll talk to Brock about his writing he's been doing, and also a little bit of the future of Canton football. So thank you. Stay with us.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back here with Canton offensive coordinator Brock Kitchen. Brock, I want to ask you another question about your writing. So you've been writing in the local newspaper. What inspired you to do that?
I don't really. Last summer, I asked our Reverend Nancy Boehm at the Church of Christ if I could maybe do a message one Sunday. So I put a message together, and I sort of thought, hey, maybe I could. And as I was typing that, I thought, maybe something I could do every week. So I contacted you, and I really enjoy it. It's usually my Sunday nights. I go down to school. I go down to my classroom on Sunday nights. It lets me calm down, and I type my article down there. There will be many Sunday nights I don't know what I'm going to write about till I get to my computer. I try to get to things around town to trigger things off. Coming down to the celebration this past weekend, you know what I mean? I had ideas popping in my head. Sitting in my hunting blinds, things pop in my head. A lot of things at school. I could write an article every week about things that happen at school in the kindergarten classroom that would make people just crack up. But no, I've really enjoyed it. It's a little bit of a stress reliever for me too, to sort of end my week that way. But no, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do it. I get quite a few compliments about it, and I think people enjoy it.
It's a good addition to the paper, and you can't do an article like that unless you really have a passion for the Canton. And I've heard a lot of bad things tossed about Canton, what the town is right now, but Canton isn't what it is without people who are passionate about the town.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's been times I've wanted to talk about things, that have affected me negatively in the town. Like you and Commissioner McClinko had the discussion about the borough a little bit. That frustrates me just as much as anybody in town, because I'm a Canton through and through. But I try to take the side of, when people read the stories, it brings a smile, maybe a tear once in a while, little remembrance, but honoring the kids a lot. I always try to recognize the kids as much as I can. My old co-teacher that I used to teach with in Liberty always used to say, you're only going to be in the paper for one good or bad thing. I want to try to keep it always the good things for the kids.
Last year I heard a rumor that you were trying to maybe get involved in the pool. You don't have to go into too much detail, but can you tell me what your ideas were, what your involvement was?
One of the councilmen, Mike Schultz, who I'm very good friends with, we've coached all the way up through, approached me and asked me if I would be interested in managing the pool over the summer. So I thought about it a little bit and thought, yeah, I think I could do that. So I went to a borough meeting, and they brought me in. We're very respectful. I said it was something I would really be interested in doing. My daughter had lifeguarded the year before when the pool was open. Some of her friends had done it as well. And some of the things that I mentioned where I felt that the lifeguards needed paid a little bit more. God forbid, a lifeguard ever has to go to the extreme of saving a kid's life, but they're still in life-saving measures. And I think that they needed to be paid a little bit more. So that was a little bit sticking point. And I understand that the pool needs renovations, it needs work, and it's not a place that's going to make the money. It's not, and it shouldn't be a place that makes money for the borough. That was a big thing that they stressed. It's a hit every year. It's always in the negative, and I understand that, but I sort of felt that a community pool is a community service for the community and the kids. And like I said, it's sad to see where it has gone. My worry is, if another year goes by and the piping gets even worse, it's going to be tough to catch up with it. I know that there has been a lot of support at the borough meetings for that and other things, which is great. I love to see that these borough meetings are getting crowded and people are trying to put their 2 cents in. But then you also got to be able to, you can't just give your 2 cents and not be able to do something about it too. I had never been to a borough meeting before. Never, when they asked me to come that day, I didn't know how they ran, didn't know who was there. So that was interesting for me. But I tried to put a step forward to try to help out. Like you said, Canton means a lot to me, not just sports and school, the community itself. I'm involved in the churches. The celebration that we had downtown last weekend was just, I love coming down to that type of stuff. I wish we could have that a couple times a summer, or do something in the winter as well. The Rialto, that saddens me a little bit. I know the Schoonovers are really trying to, help it out. But just, they're doing all they can. But losing, all maybe the top line movies that you come through, and it comes down to money. It all comes down to money. And I understand that. So I give the Schoonovers and the Prestons credit for all the work that they're doing, and those trivia nights for the kids. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Bringing bands in when they can, local bands or out of community bands, or the talent shows that the kids get to put on. Love it.
For a town this size to have, kind of the community arts and the resources that we have is pretty impressive. Yes. I grew up in Wellsboro, so Wellsboro had a lot of resources and a lot going on. And coming to Canton, it's been impressive. Yeah. And being an outsider too, sometimes you think you're not going to get included in, but the town overall has been pretty welcoming of this Wellsboro.
I hope so. I hope so. Like I said, the Canton paper has been a part of the community for I don't know how many years, 75, 100 years. I don't know how long it was, but I can remember being a kid, opening up the back page and what's Al Spencer's picks for this week, for the football games. And I still go back and read the 30 years ago or 20, the old history part, and saw my dad's name in there a few weeks ago for a baseball, baseball thing. And no, I think you guys are doing a great job. And, papers are a dying breed.
It's tough.
It's tough. It can't. You guys are in a tough situation, and being able to do it in a small town, I appreciate it greatly.
Yep, thank you. That's why we're kind of doing this, trying to kind of come into the 21st century. Before we end, I want to ask you, what is the future of Canton football?
So, our upcoming season this year, we are still optimistic. We're getting to the point where, I think our kids realize, hey, we've put 6, 7, 8 years together now, and they're seeing what needs to be done to keep that successful. I think we will have success. Are we going to have ups and downs, ebbs and flows? Absolutely. We talked about that with the small schools. We got a couple classes coming through in the next couple of years that there's just not a lot of kids. There's one grade, maybe 8th or 9th grade, that's only got 46, 47 kids, and only a third of them are boys. that hurts.
tough.
That hurts, especially in football when you got to put 11 kids out there on both sides. If you can come up with 15 players, you can probably put a team out there. But as long as we can get the kids to come out and work hard, these speed trainings that we're doing on Wednesday mornings. So, I mean, we got Holden Ward and Ben Fitch down there this morning at 8:00, and then you got kids that are in first and second grade right next to them running the speed ladders with them. So, I mean, they're seeing the kids that they look up to, and then they're showing up and being able to work out with them. When we started doing that last summer, I thought, oh, this is great. You know what I mean? We got boys and you got Kendall Kitchen, you know what I mean, running in one line, and then you got Katie Fitzwater, a second grader, running next to her. Like, it's absolutely great.
What do you say to parents who might be apprehensive to involve their young kids in football? Because so much of the CTE stuff and the head injuries, a lot of people are like, well, maybe we shouldn't do football until sixth grade. But by that time, you've lost so many years to develop their abilities.
Yep, I will never tell a parent, you know what I mean, that you should do it sooner. I had the opportunity, like my parents got me in when I was in third grade, and I hated it. Like, I wanted to quit. I won't lie to you. My first year, I'd go home after school and cry, and because I was the smallest kid out there, and I'd get the crap beat out of me at practice, and I wanted to quit, and my parents wouldn't let me. They said, you signed up for it, you're going to finish it, and I fall in love with it. Some of my best friends, their parents didn't let them come out until they were in seventh grade in junior high, and they were some of our best players. Jared Morris, you know what I mean, went on and played in college, the whole Morris family. Matt as well played in college. Like, they weren't allowed to play. Greg Bellows coached with me. His parents wouldn't. He didn't play till he was started in seventh grade. And back then we had a late bus, so kids, we don't even have late buses anymore. So after practice, you get on a bus and they'd take you towards Leroy or Roy and Branch or Alba, and so parents didn't have to do as much running. But when you come to the youth sports, parents have to do all the running, and Greg's parents, they ran a farm, or they didn't have time to be able to do that type of stuff. And I'm sure if you were to ask those people, do you wish you could have played? Yeah, they wanted to play. But no, I will never tell a parent, here or there, because I've seen it myself. I've had concussions myself. My daughter is just going through another one right now. With a pole vaulting accident. So it's a serious thing. It's like, you don't think it is, but I go back and I watch old tapes of myself, and I stand up and you can tell I have no idea where I'm at. I have no idea.
That's crazy.
And you rubbed it off, and rubbed the dirt off, and went back out there, and nobody ever thought that wiser of it. So you have to be precautionary about it. You have to teach them the right way. That's why it's so important that we get the right coaches in the youth program. Teaching the kids the right way to tackle and to block, making sure equipment is fitted correctly, that they're in the right gear. That our school is great at providing the top of the line helmets to do that thing. Having the trainers, like, we have Erica is the best trainer we've ever had, and we've had great trainers in the past, but keeping those kids physically healthy. But no, I will never question a parent on a decision they make, whether it's letting them start in flag when I let Cooper start when he was in flag, and he got to play football for 12 years. Some parents let him do it, and they get to play for 6 years. That's okay too.
Yep.
That's okay.
We had to keep our Nolan from tackling in flag because he was just ready to. He wants to be wearing pads and helmet, and that's what he's most excited for. And to run faster, buddy, you're going to get tackled too. So, I got to ask you this question to go out. In your opinion, what do you feel is the best team Canton has ever seen?
So when I grew up, when I was growing up, that 1990 team with Boo Perry. They were unbelievable. Like Matt Mockmer, Sean Mockmer.
Was that a Miller Moyer coach team?
That was Miller Moyer team. So I was in fifth, sixth grade. I'd hear stories. Sean Mockmer getting letters from Oklahoma. Big schools. Boo Perry. Getting visits all over the place. Like as a kid, you thought, these guys are the Dallas Cowboys. Like I have my mom would find old folders just recently, where I got all the Canton Warriors names on there, what I did when I was 10 and 11 years old. And you don't think that type of thing's going to happen again. And then, we were fortunate enough, in 21 and 22, to see it again. It's hard to compare. It's hard. Canton has had great athletes, great coaches. A big thing I always, Coach Moyer didn't coach any different when he had athletes and when he didn't have athletes. When I coached basketball the first time, years and years ago, my wife will tell you that I prepared and coached just as hard as I did when we had our good run. If you have the kids, you have the kids. If you have the parents and you have athleticism. We've had all-state players. Sean Mockmer and Lyle Wisniewski and Boo Perry and Matt Mockmer, they were all state at that time. And then Tyrell Wheeler and Kyle High and Reese Holmes come through, and they're all state at that time. And now we've had, had our run with Riley and Hayden and Weston and Mason and Caden Williams and Coop. Those kids were all state again. And it's going to go down again. It's part of it.
How do you keep the kids up when you're going through some lean years? Like, how do you keep them motivated to keep coming to practice, keep playing hard? What do you say to them?
You have to be able to keep the energy up yourself as a coach. If they see that you're being less energetic or putting less time into it, they're going to follow what you do. Being able to get excited about little things in the games or little things in practice. You talked about it before, my two personalities, people will say, they'd come to watch me at a basketball game just to laugh at me. And I understand that. But I got excited over the little things. Kids diving on the floor after a loose ball, you won't hear me yell any louder than that right there. And the kids know that. I only have to dive on the floor show effort to get my coach excited. That's all I got to do. I didn't get excited if they hit a three-pointer. That's not going to take care of itself. It's tough. It's tough. And, especially groups of kids that never won. If you don't win when you're in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, you're going to lose 3 or 4 kids. And then you don't win in 7th or 8th grade, you're going to lose a couple more kids. But going back on that topic of kids not maybe being able to join till later, that's also a positive too. We didn't have Michael Smithers when that group was coming up through when they were little. Michael Smithers moves in, it helps us out. Some of these kids didn't play when they were little. You get them when they get older. Ryan Eberly moves in here. Mason Nelson moves in here. We didn't have those kids. Now you're a different team.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep excited yourself for the little things, and the kids will follow.
Yeah, I remember talking about basketball. I was covering a Wellsboro game. You guys are playing Wellsboro. I think it was in 16 or 17, and it was when Altman was coaching.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this gym is really loud with these two guys coaching because you're both just so fiery and
Yep.
making sure the kids knew what they were doing and who they were covering. It was fun to see. It was just, I appreciate the passion of the coaches here in the NTL, because I know that oftentimes you'll hear that acronym non-talent league. But I think that's a bunch of hogwash. There are talented kids in this league, and that care, and there's character kids too, which
Absolutely.
I think is important.
Yeah, and the coaches around here in every sport. I am friends. So many of the basketball guys. And the football. The coaching around here is top notch. Jimmy Smith and his crew over there up north. They do a great job. Todd Outman was a great coach. Bobby Woodward. Where he has coached. The coaching is top notch, and I feel that all the NTL schools get as much out of their kids as they absolutely can. Are we drawing as many kids as some of these places? Absolutely not. And does it show? Talent-wise, when you get into districts and state, absolutely. But when you're pulling from a bigger market, you should be out-talented sometimes.
Yeah.
But you're still going to get everything you can from your kids. And I think that's not just a Canton thing. I think that's an NTL thing altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last things you want to say to our viewers while we're talking?
Like I said, I really appreciate you coming in. I love talking sports. Football season's almost here. We're going on vacation this week, so I get to shut down for a week before the big haul starts. But hey, football season. When August rolls around, there's a different smell in the air.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's just Canton football is what starts it off. Like we always tell the kids, and the administration always tells the kids, I mean, if you can have a good football season, it sets a positive tone for the whole school year.
Yeah. Whether
it's sports, school, academics, because everybody's always, how'd the football team do Friday night? How'd the football team do?
Right.
So I'm just as excited now as I was back in 2001, my first fall, helping coach football. I'm hoping I'm able to do it for a few more years. Like I said, there's nobody that's more Canton than myself. I love the kids that I see in the classroom and on the football field and on the basketball courts, and they come from great stock and great community, and we're lucky to live where we do.
Yeah, it's coming over here and going to Troy games and going to Canton games and covering them. It's I always kind of said I wanted my kids to play in that Friday Night Lights atmosphere, and I feel like between these two towns you really get to, just with the passion that the parents and the fans have, and the students as well.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great place to be. Hope the kids know how lucky they are to be able to grow up with a small group of kids, and many of them will stay your friends for your entire life.
Yeah. Brock, thanks for being here. Appreciate everything you shared with us.
Yeah, I appreciate coming in. Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you on the sidelines this fall.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do.
Thanks, guys. This has been the Average Joe Show. We'll probably see you next week. Thank you.